I moved to Queens at the age of 4. When I was about to turn 16, my father passed away. And that really made a mark. It bruised my faith. I wanted to cry. I was so mad at God. I wanted him to see how much I was suffering. My brother, the way he was grieving, he left home. And my mom, you know, she grieved in her own way, and I did mine. I started going to high school, and I met a guy. And he loved me like what I thought love was. What brought us together was music. I was a dancer, he was a dancer, we were a team. He was not a virgin at all, and I was a virgin. When we did get active, I felt dirty every single time because I knew the word. I knew what God had for me, and I knew that I'm not supposed to be having sex before marriage. Everybody's doing it. It's making him happy. It's making me happy to see him happy. But at the end, he still ended up cheating on me. So basically, did I gain anything or did I lose? I had to go to the doctor to get a physical. And one of the nurses asked me, are you sexually active? And I was like, yes, I am. I got checked, and they called me within a week, and they told me, Steph, you really need to come here with your partner. I called him over the phone. I go, are you cheating on me? No, baby, I would never do that to you. What makes you think that? I was like, great, because you have an STD. I was so mad at him, because there was no hiding it. I was a virgin. I became very angry, bitter, violent. I became sick. I lost a lot of weight. I didn't want to talk to anybody. So I just wanted to be locked in a box. I wanted to become numb. I wanted to die. I asked God. I was like, God, if you're there, heal me. Open up my Bible. I put on some CDs. And God helped me little by little to think more about him and less about my significant other. And I was like, God loves me. God loves me. And I don't care if he doesn't love me, but someone loves me. God really came through. He showed up, and he really healed me.
Today we're going to continue our very honest talk about sex by taking note of some stereotypical differences between guys and girls that really can impact your life and relationships. Now, please know that there are some obvious exceptions to these stereotypes. I understand that. But let's see what we can learn if we focus on a couple stereotypes and see how we can better understand male and female and also better understand God's design for sex. God has created us as sexual beings and given us our sexuality, and with that, he created this awesome action called sex. And because he created it, he knows what's best. He created it with some guidelines and boundaries that would be reserved for marriage. Now, with that in mind, let's talk about some differences that are seen in males and females. First, girls are highly relational. Girls hold a higher value on relationships than guys do. Guys, when you go to the bathroom, you get up from the table and go, hey, I'm going to take a leak, and then you just leave. But when girls go to the bathroom, they say, okay, everybody, let's go. Let's make this trip into a social outing. I mean, because they love to be together and to talk and connect and go deeper and talk some more. Again, guys are capable of talking too. I'm not saying that. But girls are more wired for relationships than guys. Now, while girls are more relational, guys are definitely more physical. I mean, guys love to be physical, they're turned on by touch. I mean, girls, when you start a relationship with a guy, it's such a nice relationship. You spend time talking together late at night, you have this good time. But as soon as you open the door to a physical relationship, you know what happens? Most of your talking time disappears. I mean, I had so many girls confess that once they became physical, the relational part or the verbal part, the talking, really stopped. You had a good relationship until it became physical. And you know why? Because it's a whole lot easier to, make out or get naked or have sex than it is to be relational and verbal and talk. And when guys are given a choice, they're going to choose physical. I mean, part of being relational is that girls are also more verbal than guys. I mean, girls love to talk. Now, ladies, I know you're great at texting, but you're even better at talking. You love talking on the phone, talking in person, talking anywhere. Guys, you know what a phone is for. Details. Just tell me when, where, how much, okay, bye. And it's one of the reasons I love watching ESPN, because ESPN is all about quick details. It's highlights, it's scores, it's best of the best. I love it. You know, when I watch it with my wife, you know what she does? She sees a player and she wonders what he's like. You know, does he have a wife and kids? And she's wondering what his family's like, and how come they only show him hitting a home run and not talking about his kids and where he lives and what he likes to do? I'm like, just give me the details, give me the highlights. That's what I want. Now, girls are highly verbal, guys are highly visual. Ladies, guys can be turned on very quickly by the sight of almost anything female related. I mean, some of you girls have said something like this before. You say stuff like, I just don't like it when guys look at me like they're undressing me with their eyes. And that's totally understandable, and that's exactly what guys are doing. I mean, they're visual creatures, and they're easily turned on by sight. So girls, the more you give them to look at, by the way you dress or you don't dress, the more they're gonna look. And I wanna say to you as a pastor, actually as a dad of teenage girls myself, as somebody who really cares about teenagers and their future. Ladies, be smart, be wise in how you dress. That for some, it's no wonder that guys are groping at you all the time. And I realize that you may be sitting there being a little defensive and saying, hey, guys are visual, that's their problem. I should be able to dress however I want. Well, you're right, and you're also wrong in some regards, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But before we do that, let's get to another difference. One of the other differences is that girls prefer romance more than guys do. I mean, girls love romance. That's why they want to go to chick flicks. What are chick flicks? Well, they're romance novels on screen. I mean, you don't hear girls walking out of a chick flick saying, wasn't that an awesome sex scene? No, they're walking out saying, oh, they got together at the end, wasn't that great? I mean, girls love romance because it's all about being cherished and being secure and being loved. And guys are thinking, well, that's fine, but show me some flesh. I mean, I'm visual, for goodness sakes. And why girls prefer romance, guys prefer action more than girls. I mean, let's just make it happen. Let's do it. Let's get to the end result. I want to conquer this. I want to win. I want to get to reach my goal. They just love action. That's why, chick flicks for girls and action flicks a lot of times for guys. Again, another stereotype. I understand there's differences, but that's what we're talking about here. Let's get to another difference. One of the differences is that girls love chivalry. Now, some of you have no idea what this means because you've either never heard it or you've never seen it or experienced it. And an easy definition of chivalry is treating girls like a queen. Guys, it's not a natural thing. You got to learn to do this. And I asked my wife to help me understand why chivalry is so important for girls to be treated in this gracious, kind way. You know what she said? She said it just makes them feel special and thought of and cared about. Chivalry is things like opening the door and pulling out a chair and being polite, stuff like that. And guys aren't into chivalry because they wouldn't do stuff like that with their buddies. And that's one of the things guys are into. Guys are into their buddies. That's why some of you girls, you've dated guys who, they try to treat you like you're their buddy. They don't do the kind stuff that you really want them to do because they'd never do that with their buddy. And they like you, but they're just kind of treating you like their buddy. For guys, the ultimate dating relationship would be if they could be with a girl and they could, make out when they're horny. They could play Xbox till they're hungry. They could eat food till they're full, because by that time they'll be horny again, and that would be a perfect relationship for a guy. Now, another difference is when it comes to emotions, girls tend to feel their emotions while guys tend to think their emotions. Now again, I'm not suggesting it never goes the other way around, but primarily, girls are more emotional. And when there is something wrong, they just feel it. Guys, when you're dating a girl and something's wrong with her, but you're not exactly sure, maybe she's mad at something, you just don't know, and you say something like this. You say, what are you thinking? And what does the girl say? Nothing. Okay? Because they're not thinking, they're feeling. They're not defining how they're feeling in a word. You can't understand what they're feeling. Sometimes it just can't be answered with a quick buddy-like response. Now, the last difference that I want to suggest is this. when it comes to a sex drive, a girl's sex drive is slow, while a guy's sex drive is fast. I mean, simply put, a girl's sex drive is like one of those dimmer switches, you know what I'm talking about, where you slowly turn it? Where a guy's sex drive is like a switch that's quickly turned on. Actually, for some guys, the switch is always on.
My life growing up was in the church. My dad was a youth pastor since as long as I can remember. Pretty solid family life, big family. I was kind of introduced to pornography by accident on the internet. The very first time I can remember seeing it was just like a pop-up that popped up, and I was like, whoa, what's that? And kind of shut it down really quick, looked away. Flash forward probably a couple years. It's like a blog site for kids that I was kind of on, and just kind of stumbled upon it and was really confused, but now I knew how to get to it, unlike the pop-up. Eventually, kind of built up the courage or stupidity, whatever it was, to click it and go look at it. I guess the reason I wanted to go back to it was, I don't know, I was young, knew I shouldn't be doing it, but for some reason I wanted to. I'd think about, if I stop looking at porn for a week or 2 weeks, then I'll go tell my parents, because then it's something I used to struggle with, not something I'm struggling with now. So what I eventually did is I wrote my parents like a Facebook message. Made sure it said everything I wanted to say and made sure I was apologizing a lot, and I kind of sat there and struggled with my hand over the mouse trying to click send, and I just kind of closed my eyes and clicked it, and finally that night I got a message back. It was just the absolute complete opposite of what I expected, and it was just grace and love. Then my dad replied the next day, and he was able to say, I used to look at porn too and I struggled with that. And then we were able to relate, which was really, really helpful, but it wasn't enough for me to stop. And so, like 3 days later, I looked at porn again and I just felt awful. And this time I wasn't gonna tell my parents. A few months passed and I had been talking to my friends about it more openly. We were all struggling with it and all doing better, but we weren't great. We came up with this crazy idea to shoot videos of ourselves, confessing what we were doing and confessing what we were struggling with. But again, those videos didn't fix it. Just because, 500 people know that I'm a porn addict now doesn't make me not a porn addict. It just makes me a very public porn addict. It's really hard sometimes, but I'm getting there, and God still loves me, and I still love myself even though I'm struggling with this.